The day I caught my fiancé cheating 2 days before our wedding. So, I've told this story on Reddit a few times but figured this subreddit is the obvious place to get it out of my system. For reference, I'm now 31, but this happened in 2014 when I was 26 and my ex-fiancé was 25, let's call her Barb. We met in college and dated for 3 years prior to our engagement with a wedding date booked by the 4th year. Neither of our parents are well off financially and she was attending grad school, so the financial responsibility fell on me, which totaled $20,000 that was paid in full 4 days prior to the wedding. Leading up to that nightmare of an evening, we had our typical mid-20s relationship issues with bouts of poor communication, excessive drinking on weekends, and an occasional fight over trivial bullshit. Aside from that, we had a great relationship and spent a ton of time together figuring out post-college life and planning for our future. As I said above, the wedding and reception venue cashed my check 4 days before the wedding and the contract stated this was non-refundable. Over 120 guests were confirmed, a couple dozen from out of state, tuxes and bridesmaid dresses were fitted and paid, and everything was falling into place. Now let's get to the inevitable shitstorm of events that you're all interested in before I keep rambling. The night in question was a Friday evening in our new apartment that we'd moved into a few weeks prior, and we decided to have about a dozen friends over to pregame and head out to the bars in town. Included in this group of friends was my buddy whom I've known since kindergarten, we'll call him Ricky. Barb and I had spent a lot of time with Ricky over the last 3 years and he was definitely one of her favorite one of my pals, which is generally awesome when you're so gets along with people in your social circle. The night started at a local hookah lounge that was BYOB, so by the time we left there, a 1/5 of Jameson and 30 rack of Yingling were gone and everyone was buzzed. The next 3 hours were spent between 2 to 3 bars that resulted in the entire group devolving into a drunken, belligerent mess. Once the bars closed, most people went home with the exception of myself, Barb, Ricky, and another couple who came back to our apartment for a nightcap. Once back at our place, the couple only lasted another 20 minutes before calling it and making their way home, so I was left with Barb and friggin' Ricky. Earlier in the night at the hookah bar, I noticed Barb checking her phone more than usual, and simultaneously Ricky checking his phone after she would lock the screen. I almost put 2 and 2 together. But why would I worry about them planning anything shady 2 days before I was supposed to marry this girl? Back at my house, I was fairly sober and noticed all the booze was gone, so I was contemplating picking up a couple of 6-packs from a local spot that stays open until 3 a.m. Barb and Ricky were definitely on the liquor and tanked, but there was no reason to suspect anything sketchy would occur if I ran out for 20 minutes. Once in my car and preparing to exit my apartment complex, I got a sinking feeling in my gut that something wasn't right, and it completely freaked me out. So, I called my best bud and he agreed to be picked up and join me on the beer run and accompany me back to the apartment. After grabbing some Bud Heavies and returning home, we walked up to the sliding glass door that led to my living room that had a sectional to the immediate right. We opened the door, took 2 steps inside the apartment, and my ex-fiancé was completely topless and mounted on Mr. Ricky tonsil deep down each other's throats. The amazing part of the situation was neither of them appeared to notice that my buddy and I were 10 feet away watching their sloppy, drunken escapades. After 7 to 10 seconds of attempting to comprehend the current situation, I lost it, dropped the booze, threw her backward off Ricky completely topless, and landed 2 hard right hooks to Ricky's eye and cheek while he was still laying on his back with the most terrified look on his face. To put things in perspective, I am 6 feet 220 inches lbs and have played hockey my entire life. He is 5 feet 6 inches 140 pounds and a runner. Immediately following the assault with my fist, Ricky started snoring, didn't know this was a thing, and was asleep for at least 5 minutes while I was losing my mind over the situation. Without thinking, I called her parents about 10 times until they woke up and demanded they come to pick up their cheating daughter immediately. Their house was only 5 minutes down the road, so they walked in shortly thereafter while I was laying into Barb about her unforgivable, disgusting decision. Her parents frantically walked into me screaming at Barb, Ricky assed out on the couch, and my buddy mediating the situation. The first thing I told everyone was the wedding was off. I demanded the ring back and said I'd rather lose $20,000 than spend the rest of my life with a cheating bitch. Her parents spent the next 20 minutes attempting to talk me out of it and occasionally defending Barb's actions, saying things like, "Why can't you forgive her?" or "Isn't it too late to cancel the wedding?" Meanwhile, Ricky woke up and the right side of his face had swollen to the size of a grapefruit and his left eye was completely shut. Kicking him out of the apartment was tough because he was too drunk to drive, so I called his brother that was 20 minutes away and spent that time laying into Barb, Ricky, and her parents. Surprisingly, I was able to stay level-headed enough to express my thoughts in such an extreme state of rage. The few times I've been this upset in the past, my brain felt like it was scrambled and I had a hard time condensing and forming my thoughts into logical statements. Not this time. By the time Ricky's brother picked him up and Barb's parents shuttled her home, I had systematically picked apart any objection, opinion, or plea for reconsideration expressed by everyone in the room. It felt really great. I'm not going to pretend the following months were easy and everything worked out in my favor. 2 months later, the pharma company I worked at decided to lay off my entire division. I had racked up thousands in credit card debt to pay for the wedding, unemployment haunted me for 5 months, and I was diagnosed with major depression. Life was messed up for a few years and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but now that I'm 31 things have settled down and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. Thank you for listening and please subscribe to the channel for more content like this.